Hi everyone, Pastor Jimmy at Mount Pleasant Baptist Church coming to you today with video number 2 on lessons we can learn from moms in the Bible. Just a few videos I'm doing as we go through Mother's Day week to show you some lessons that the moms in the Bible can teach us all. And so we saw in the first video the lesson of teaching from Lois and Eunice. And today we want to look at some lessons in faith. We want to look at a lesson in faith from a mother that really doesn't get a whole lot of credit. Mentioned just a couple of times in the Bible, and that is Jochebed. She is the mother of Moses, also the mother of Aaron and Miriam, whom sometimes we forget about. We just mostly talk about Moses. Exodus chapter 2, verses 1 through 5 says, "Now a man of the tribe of Levi married a Levite woman, and she became pregnant and gave birth to a son. When she saw that he was a fine child, she hid him for 3 months. But when she could hide him no longer, she got a papyrus basket for him and coated it with tar and pitch. Then she placed the child in it and put it among the reeds along the bank of the Nile. His sister stood at a distance to see what would happen to him." You see, it may not sound unusual for someone to have a child, but what we have to realize is that the Israelites were slaves to the Egyptians during this time. And the Israelites had grown so much during this time that the Pharaoh had said, "We must kill all the babies born." So he had gone to all the midwives. He had told them to kill all of them. They had been commanded, they had gone and captured all the babies, thrown them in the Nile. There was to be no more male Israelites that were to be living. And so as we look at this lesson of faith, there's 3 things in her faith that I want us to see today that all of us can learn from her. Number 1, in her faith, she had the faith to have him. Now, they may not seem like too big of a deal, but when you look at the circumstances surrounding what was going on with her, just to have a child at that time took faith. But she trusted in God. She trusted that He had a plan. She trusted that He would take care of whatever was to happen, and she went ahead and she had her child the way that she was supposed to have her child. And so many in our world today, we take things for granted and we look at what we should and shouldn't do. But what we need to do is we need to have faith that God has a plan for everything that happens in our life. And we need to put our faith and trust in Him. The second thing that we can learn from her is that she had the faith to hide him. Now this was a big deal. Hebrews 11:23 kind of links the faith of Moses to the faith of his mother and his father. By faith, Moses, when he was born, was hid 3 months of his parents because they saw he was a proper child and they were not afraid of the king's commandment. Hebrews 11:23. Well, what this can show us is that she had more faith in God than she had fear in the world. She had more faith in God than she did fear of the world. She hid him for 3 months. Can you imagine how hard it would have been to hide a newborn baby from all the things, all the authorities and all the people that were looking for the children for 3 months? But yet she had enough faith to say, "I'm going to do what God wants me to do. I'm going to do the right thing. I'm going to trust in Him, and I'm going to hide baby Moses for 3 months. I'm going to hide him as long as I can and have faith that God will take care of me. Not worry about the fear of the world and what the king's command was, what the Pharaoh's commands were, and not worry about the punishment that may come if I get caught. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to have faith that God is greater than this world." And then we see that she had faith to let him go. She had faith to let him go. There came a time when he was getting too big to hide. He was getting too big for her to keep him hid. And so she trusted in God that God would take care of him and that God would take care of her. So she let him go. Can you imagine the faith it took this mother to let Moses go? Can you imagine the faith it took her to let him go? So she prepared the basket. She put him in a basket along the reeds of the Nile, and she sent him away, trusting that God would take care of him, trusting that God had a plan for him. She sent his older sister Miriam to watch and see what happens. She wanted to know what God's plan was. She had faith that God was going to do something great. So she sent Miriam so she could report back to her. And the report that Jochebed got back was something that even her, in her great faith, she probably didn't think was going to happen. You see, Moses was found by Pharaoh's daughter. And she fell in love with him immediately, and she decided to raise him as her own. And here Miriam comes in and says, do you need me to go get a Hebrew woman to nurse him? Pharaoh's daughter said, yes, go. And Miriam naturally went back to her mom. And so Moses' mom had faith to have him. She had faith to hide him. She had faith to release him and let him go. And the reward of all of her faith was God's hand working to bring her back into the life of Moses and to raise him and to get paid to raise him in Pharaoh's house as one of them. And so she, through her faith, was able to stay with her son and raise her son through faith. You see, she teaches us all the lesson of faith today. This great mother in the Bible shows us that we need to have more faith in God than the things of the world. We need to have more faith in God than the fear that is in the world. Such a lesson for all of us today. So I pray that if your faith starts to doubt, if you start to doubt and your faith starts to wean away, look to Jochebed and look at her faith and look at what she can teach us about being faithful to God and conquering the fears of this world.